Okay, March 24th, class number 341. All things are yours, too. I would like to start by reading my Facebook post for today, and you'll get the feel for where I'm going with this. Countless times I've entered stores and had a salesperson ask me, "What did you have in mind?" Looking back and contemplating that question, it dawned on me that what I'm looking for is already mine in mind, the mind of Christ, the only mind. I know that even if I didn't know consciously what I wanted, the Spirit would reveal the exact good I desired. In 1 Corinthians 3:19 through 23, Paul writes, "For the wisdom of this," and I added this, "material world is foolishness before God. For it is written, he catches the," and I added this, "worldly, materially wise in their own craftiness. And again, the Lord knows that the thoughts of the," and I added, "worldly, materially wise are vain. Therefore, let no man boast about men, for all things are yours, whether Paul or Apollos or Cephas or the world or life or death or things present or things to come. All things are yours, and you are of Christ, and Christ is of God. With this in mind, I now stop looking for things and depending on so-called experts out in the exterior, and I am led into my manifest good. If I have it in mind, it's mine." And as I close, I said it in my Jackie Gleason voice, how sweet it is. You see, what do you have in mind? You know, I got up this morning and I said, "Lord, I don't really know of anything that I have to do today, so what do you have in mind?" And my mind goes automatically to Psalm 32:8. I've made you to know. I've made you to understand. I've led you in the way that you ought to take. So what God has in mind, I'm already on track with it. I don't have to know literally right away what it is, but I do know that it will be revealed. I also know that he says, what is it, Isaiah 65:24, what's he say? Before you called, I've answered. We're going to get into that in just a few minutes a little more. But, God, what you got in mind? You know, you told me not to take any thought about my life. Okay, so I ain't going to sit around thinking about what it is that I need to do. Lord, I'm not going to think about what I'm going to have, how I'm going to eat, where I'm going to get money from, how am I going to pay this bill. You said that don't even think about that. So I can't make a plan to pay any of them or to do anything until you reveal to me what it is that you have in mind. And it is his good pleasure to give you the kingdom. That's what it says in Luke 12. So if it's God's good pleasure to give you the kingdom is slotha in Aramaic, which means counsel or the word. So what God has in mind is to tell you something. And if he tells you something, that means it is already done, because what God has done is done forever. So that word will become flesh, and it becomes flesh as your experience through the day. I hope y'all got all that, because that's the way it is. Okay, now, with that in mind, we know that God has given us his mind, the mind of Christ. We know that the mind of Christ is filled up with God's counsel or his word. That's why he's giving you the kingdom. And so no matter what, I always have the kingdom. I can't not have the kingdom. And so therefore, what he has in mind is coming to pass. Now, let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 2, and I'm coming out of the Aramaic, the Lamb's Bible. I'm going to start at verse 6. I'm going to start at verse 1. And I, my brethren, when I came to you, did not come with excellency of speech, nor did I preach to you with learning the mystery of God. For I did not pretend to know anything among you except Jesus Christ and even him crucified. In other words, I don't have no historical basis for what it is I'm telling you. I didn't get it from people. I was a Pharisee. This is Paul talking now. I was a Pharisee, and I was way up there in the organization, and I was going out, and I was killing Christians based on the instructions that I had been given. But now I'm telling you, I don't pretend to know anything about what I'm doing. Remember, I'm the guy that was on a beast and was knocked off by the light and was blind for a while until Ananias came over and did the will of God. I received my sight, and then I went away for over 9 years, and I sat out in the desert somewhere. And I waited and waited, and I made tents, and I occupied myself while God was revealing to me what his will and ministry, that means my service. A lot of people think ministry means what I'm going to be the preacher, I'm the bishop. No, ministry is service. And so what service God is going to direct me in, and I am going to let this light flow through. So my speech and my preaching was not with enticing words of wisdom, but in demonstration of the Spirit and of power. How many churches you know this day are you going to and you're seeing a demonstration of the Spirit and of power? And then in your mind, ask yourself, how many churches am I going to and I hear enticing words? I hear a bunch of affirmations. I hear a lot of different practices and the stars and the moons and crystals and all of these different rituals. He said, no. I came to you with a demonstration of power. And so, in other words, your faith is not going to rest in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. That's where your wisdom is going to be. Your faith. Now, remember, we said faith is the Christ mind. It is the substance of what you hope for. You hope to live the Christ life. And it is the evidence, that which is, you're living it. You're living it. Every time I think I'm here, why am I here? I'm here to live by faith. What does that mean? I'm here to live out of this Christ mind and let the will of God be done in earth as it is in heaven. That's why I'm here. Okay. Verse 6, howbeit we do discuss wisdom with those who have comprehension, yet not the wisdom of this world, nor of the rulers of this world who pass away. But we discuss the wisdom of God, shown in a mysterious way, and it is hidden, but which God ordained before the world for our glory, which none of the rulers of the world knew. Now look at the world as you see it now. Do you think that any of the rulers of the world, and that even includes our president and Ukraine and Putin and all over the world, how many of you know are standing there saying, I am trusting in the Spirit of God, in the power of God. I'm doing a demonstration of the power in God. I believe with my heart, if somebody at that level stood up and said, and in their own mind, they ain't telling anybody, it's just somebody would stand in their own mind and stand firm and say, you know what, this is not the will of God, which I've done in my own heart. I said, this is not the will of God. This is not what God is asking us to. This is not why we're here. We're here to live by faith, that wherever there's a bully, a tyrant, or a despot, they're done. They're done in the water. And they have to do what they're doing in order to make themselves go away. They are destroying their own platforms. And our job is to let them go. In quietness and confidence shall be your strength. Let them go. This morning I couldn't think of somebody's name to save my sock up. And then I heard a little voice say, just let go. Let go. And I've been trying to think of this lady's name since last night when we were at the recording studio, and a friend was there, and he said, what was her name? And we couldn't come up with it. And this morning, I couldn't. I said, you know what? I'm going to stop. I'm just going to stop trying to think about it. Bing, it popped right in. The girl's name, just as plain. And I said, wow, this is it. I mean, this is the answer. I have the mind of Christ. And the mind of Christ is omniscient, all-knowing, so there's nothing that I don't know as long as I realize I am one with God. In Aramaic, one with God means it was in one accord. So I am one with God no matter what. I'm always in one accord with God. I am in the Father is in me. That agreement is the quietness and confidence that's my strength, which gives me joy. See, it all is just one package. There's nothing to go get from God. You can't get what somebody's giving you. It's already been given. And so you are to let it flow out by not trying to get it. It says, now listen at verse 9. This is where the beauty really starts. But as it is written, the eye has not seen. You're talking about your natural eye. The eye has not seen, and the ear has not heard, and the heart of man has not conceived the things which God has prepared for those who love him. The heart of man whose breath is in his nostrils, that man's heart has not conceived that which God has prepared for those who love him. Verse 10, but God has revealed them, not God is going to reveal. God has revealed them to us by his Spirit. Why us? Because we say and believe we love God, which, by the way, means we love good. So he has revealed them to us, for the Spirit searches everything, even the depths of God. For what man knows the mind of man save or except the spirit of man which is in him? Even so, no man knows the mind of God except the Spirit of God. Man, as he sees himself as a mortal individual personality, cannot know the mind of God. But the Spirit of God within the man knows God. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit that is from God, that we may understand the gifts that are given to us by God. Why is that? Because we are soul. S-O-U-L. We are the soul. And the soul and the body are one thing. I heard Joel Goldsmith say one time, the outpicturing of your body is an outpicturing of the soul. I said, well, man, right now my soul must not be exactly the way it ought to be for some of the things that are appearing. See, you got more than one body. You got the body that you walk around in. You got the body of your house, your home environment, the body of your car, the body of your relationships with people. So as you begin to drop and reject thoughts that are not congruent or in one accord with what God is, those outer appearing things begin to change. You start to feel better. You start to look better. You have better modes of transportation. That thing you've been wanting to do in your house for so long, you want to fix certain things or what have you. The way has been made. It is revealed how to do that. And how is that? By rejecting and dropping every thought that is against the knowledge of Christ. Because those things are strongholds. I didn't write this down today, but if you go look at 2 Corinthians chapter 10, in there you'll find out that it's up to you, because you have the power of God. It's up to you to reject the thought that somebody doesn't like me, to reject the thought that, man, I'm in a bind. Boy, I don't know how I'm going to do this. That's because you're lying against God. God says you can do all things through Christ. So what is Christ but the enlightened state of mind, which is firm, which is faith, which is the substance, which stands under, which draws the grace. It is the evidence of what it is that God has given you to do. See, you desire to do what God has given you to do. And you, as the soul, desire to have exactly the life that God has given you. I am come that you would have life and you would have it in abundance. So you desire to have the abundance in experience. You don't desire to go out here and try to come up with abundance. How can I make more money? For some reason, that's what the church teaches is abundance. How can I get more, pile up more, stack paper, whatever vernacular you choose to use? How can I do this? Or I want to go do this so I'll be famous. Jesus was famous and didn't even try to be. The fame of Jesus went throughout the Holy Land. I said, so it's not wrong to want to be famous. No, it's not wrong to want to be famous. It's like Greg Braden says, when you pray, you got to pray exactly the way Jesus prayed. We're going to get into that a little bit too. He said, with no hidden agenda. You see, a hidden agenda is I want to be famous so that I can, and you add the rest. I can get whatever it is, these different, I can have all of this, whatever. That's a hidden agenda. I want to be famous. Why? Because the fame of God will go throughout the Holy Land, which means the whole land. So my fame will be associated with service, with God shining through, a light that lights every man. Remember, Jesus said, you are the light of the world. So let your light shine. He didn't say go out and make it shine. Don't go running off at the mouth and telling everybody what they need to be doing, which, don't try to sell people miracle water so you can get healed. I loved when I heard Joel Goldsmith say, we're not out here trying to heal broken bodies and make broken bodies well. We're here letting God reach the heart of man and reveal the things that he has prepared for them without a hidden agenda, without a hidden motive. We feel the reality of the rightness and the perfection, the completeness of God. Creation is complete. We're just experiencing it by faith. So now we go on and say that now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the spirit that is from God, that we may understand the gifts that are given to us by God. For the things which we discuss are not dependent on the knowledge of words and man's wisdom, but on the teaching of the Spirit, thus explaining spiritual things to the spiritually minded. Well, how do you know you're spiritually minded? Here we go. Verse 14. For the material man rejects spiritual things, for they are foolishness to him. Neither can he know them because they are spiritually discerned. But the spiritual man discerns everything, and yet no man can discern him. When you're sitting around meditating and thinking spiritual things and thinking about the things that you have in God, people look at you and go, where are you? You look distant. They don't know what you're thinking about. And you don't know what they're thinking about either, except when you start seeing how they act, what they start doing. But you're quiet and you're calm within, and the Spirit of God is revealing the gifts to you. For who knows the mind of the Lord that he may teach it? But we have and instead of the word mind right here, is in the King James, this changed my whole outlook. We have the perception of Christ. You remember when the lady was at the well, and when Jesus told her all kinds of stuff, and she looked and she said, I perceive that you are a prophet. You have this special gift of spiritual discernment which allows you to perceive the reality of God. You can perceive what's next. You can see it. If you have it in mind, M-I-N-D, then it is yours. And you know you have it in mind because all things are yours. See, I told you, all of this ties together. There's nothing missing from your experience. Nothing at all. And when we calm down and quit trying to get this thing to look like what God said it is, we'll see it looking like what God says it is. Remember, the people say, let go and let God. I'm telling you, every time you hear somebody saying, let go, just let go and let God, they're not letting go. They're saying something that Paul called enticing speech. They've been drawn into the ritual. When you let go and let God, you quit thinking about the situation, and you don't even tell people that that's what you're doing. You're just going on. It's like the song that I told you that I wrote called "Keep On Keeping On." Let me let you in on the second verse. It says, "You want it real bad, and you've made your sacrifice, paying dues, Lord, a heavy price, and you feel kind of funny." This is the one that used to take me. You feel kind of funny about how you look to all your friends, but the winners don't quit, and the quitters never win. Keep on keeping on. But what does that mean? You look dumb to people when you're not trying to do something about your situation, when you're not going and calling people and asking them for their opinion, or asking them, how do I do this, or can you help me do this? You're going around trusting that men will help you. You look dumb if that's not what you're doing. You look just as crazy. People are looking and say, look, oh, Lord, this boy, look at him. I remember at one point when things weren't going well, and I'm running around struggling, trying to take care of certain situations, and people were asking me, well, why don't you do this? Or why don't you, people are real quick to tell you what you ought to do. And you look dumb to them. But then when it works out, they will not have anything to say. You ever notice that? When you let go, when you quit thinking about it, and then especially when you quit thinking about how you look to them, when you reject them. Joel Goldsmith tells a story about Virginia Stevenson, who was one of his students. Joel said that she had all kinds of problems with her church, and she with the pastor, the people in the church, she was struggling. They were talking about her, and they were having she didn't know what to do. And Joel told her, drop the church, drop the pastor, drop the people that are giving you a hard, just drop them from your mind altogether. And every time a thought about one of them comes to you, just reject it. Just reject it. All the people who have been rough with you, the pastor not supporting, and those who are talking about you in that church, drop them. Just drop it. And when they come to mind, reject it. Reject the thought that you have about what you would do or what they're doing to you. He said that within, a short period, a month or so, a couple of months, not only did the thoughts about the people quit coming to her, but the people. She didn't even run into them in the street anymore. And she is living in the same town where they were. And she's going out doing things and what have you. And she did not run into these people anymore. The thoughts about them quit coming. And I practiced that. I started practicing that. And I'll go months and months and months sometimes without thinking about certain people that have come, and they, as far as I'm concerned, in my normal personality self, have treated me unkindly. I just don't run into them. There are people in Cynthia's family that had problems with me from day one, from the first time they met me, and they didn't think I was the right person for Cynthia. At the time, I was living in Detroit, and one of her aunts called me Detroit Slick. And they didn't like me. And they have not learned to like me up to this point. But guess what? I live in Upper Marlboro, and they live in Upper Marlboro. And guess what? I go years and don't even see them. If I don't go to one of their cookouts, a family cookout, I won't. There are some of them I haven't seen for 2 years. In fact, there are a couple of them I haven't seen for 3 years. I didn't even see them at the funeral. They may have been there. I don't know. But I didn't look to find out because they don't come into my mind. I reject it. You might say, well, does that mean you don't love them? I love God. And because I love God, the power of God is rejecting anything that I might think untoward against any of them. So by rejecting the thought, I take no thought about them, and I move on. Now, the whole time I've been talking to you right now, do you know that none of their names are coming to me? The ones who I know don't care that much for me or they didn't like me from day one, they don't even come to me. Their minds don't come to me. Their thoughts, their names, I don't think anything about them at all. You see, I perceive that I have no hidden agenda. My agenda is I don't want to think unkind thoughts about those in the world who don't like me or who act like they don't like me or they don't want to be bothered. Or how about all of the people that rejected my music and who because they couldn't own most of it, didn't want to have anything to do with me? Or there are certain people from my home, at least my home state, said ugly things. He can't sing. He's not this. But see, I don't want to carry that. That's a burden that's too heavy. Jesus said, my burden is light. What is his burden? Don't think about it. Take no thought for your life. Don't think about it. Reject those thoughts. Drop those thoughts. Let it go. Realize that you have the mind of Christ. You have the ability to perceive. Here we go now. What are you going to perceive? What the Spirit is revealing to you as the gifts of God. And those gifts are embodied within you so that you can be the light that the service of God comes through. That's it. You are living by faith. In 1 John 5:14, it says, we know that if we pray according to his will, he hears us. And if he hears us, we know that we have the petitions that are desired of him. Jesus said, pray in my name? Well, we went through that. In Aramaic, it means pray in my manner. Pray in my manner. What does that mean? Trap the thoughts of God, slaughter. And then make it firm. That's the amen, hermeneuta. Make it firm. It is firm. What I mean by make it firm is trap the thought and realize and perceive that it is already firm. It is the word, and that word becomes flesh. Do you know that when you trap that thought and allow that to become your speech, you're just like Jesus, and when he said, the words I speak, they are spirit and they are life. You want life more abundantly? You speak the word of prayer that you have trapped. And one of my favorite scriptures, Romans 8:27, it's amazing when you start to understand this stuff. It just really blesses you. Romans 8:27, that's where he's talking about the Spirit prays according to the will of God. You hearing that? The Spirit within you prays according to the will of God. So really, it's God praying. And you are trapping God's prayer. That means you are in one accord with God. Your prayer is to trap the thought of God. God's prayer is to reveal the word in your heart. That word which you have not been able to conceive. Your heart, your eye hasn't seen it. Your ears haven't heard it. And it has not entered into the heart of man, the personality man. Has not entered into you the things that God has prepared. Has prepared, already done. That which God does in Ecclesiastes 3:14. What's he say? What God does is done forever. Nothing can be put to it and nothing taken away. That which is to be has already been. Remember, we've been meditating on this now for 2 weeks. And that which is being is right now. Psalm 32, I've already made you to understand. I've led you in the way that you are to take, and I will follow you with my eye. Isaiah 65 and 24, before you called, I answered. If you trap those thoughts, you have prayed according to the will, and you have confidence that you have the petitions that are desired of him. You can't help but be. You cannot help but be confident if that's what you have done. You see, Jesus said at Lazarus' tomb, Father, I know you hear me. How could he perceive that God has heard him? Because he's listened. He's trapped the thoughts. He knows the will of God. He knows God's desire is that people realize there is no death. That's a hard one because you see the hearse every week. You just went through it in in November. You just went through it. You saw what outpictured your loved one. You saw her no longer in the house with you from a physical standpoint. But deep in your heart, you know there's no death. And so little by little, every day, the feeling of there is no death gets stronger and stronger. And what makes it get stronger is Jesus, after 3 days, got up. And he said, as I am in this world, so are you. So your loved one, Cynthia, got up after 3 days. A real good friend who walked, who pledged Delta Sigma Theta, as Cynthia was the dean of pledges for her. She passed away. And her husband was taking it rough, just like me. But God was there saying, they got up. They got up. There's no death. That's this world that looks like death every day. The walking dead, that's what I call it. You see people just going their merry way, running up on the back of your bumper with their car, cutting you off in traffic, cutting in front of you when you get right to them because they don't want to be behind you because they think you're going to be going too slow. And they're in a hurry. They got to get there before you. And you see all of that going on. You see the racism. You see God doing nothing about any of it. But when you start rejecting it, you are the light of the world. How you act shows people that you are the light of the world. Oh, you'll look funny at first, but then things start to smooth out. The presence goes before you to make the crooked places straight. And quietness and confidence shall be your strength. See, Father, I know when I talk like that, you hear me. I've trapped your idea that in quietness and confidence is my strength. I know that the joy of the Lord is my strength. I'm trapping those thoughts. I'm trapping those thoughts. That means I'm feeling. I'm surrounded by the feeling, as Greg Braden says, as Neville says, the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Wish and desire mean the same thing. You wish to express. You don't wish to try to get. Joel Goldsmith says, demonstrate God, which to me means let God demonstrate itself through us. What does that mean? God is good. So good demonstrates itself through you without you having to tick off people. Without you having to, you don't have to tell people what to do. You can just know the truth. And they will somehow, by grace, either leave you alone or they will operate in your experience as the good that God wishes. You see, God is the one with the desire. God is the one with the wish. God is the one who's doing the living. God is living his life through us. God is appearing as each one of us. So, when you say, I am God, you're just saying, I am good. See, there's no person out here or invisible or what. There's no person who's God. I said this once before. Whoever wrote Genesis 1, that was a man writing his highest understanding of creation. But to me, John wrote a stronger version of creation. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. Then he goes on to say, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among them. So the Word becomes you, within and without. Your body quits aching. Your body quits quaking. Your body starts to lose weight if that's what's necessary. Your body starts to conform to the image and likeness of good. You stop getting sick. You stop getting the flu. You stop sneezing with, what is that stuff? Hay fever. And I used to have it so bad. I'd be wheezing and sneezing all over the place. From March to June, I remember once going to a meeting of Computer Sciences Corporation, and I was wheezing and sneezing. It was ridiculous. And then in the fall, the same thing. Then I started trapping the thought, I am I. All things are mine. All things are yours. You cannot not have what God says he has given you, because God has done, and that what God has done is forever. Nothing can be put to it, nothing taken away. At the end of that, of Ecclesiastes, it says, and God requires your past. In the Aramaic says it in a different way. It says God will avenge you of your persecutors. We talked about that last week. Your persecutors are nothing more than the thoughts that you're taking about what you think, what you see, what you fear, your doubts. Those are persecutors. So if you're like the woman caught in adultery, meaning you're having an illicit relationship with the world, and they're trying to judge you and say this ought to happen to you and that ought to happen to you because you have been this and you have been that. When you listen at your heart and God reveals to you that you have no accusers, that's what you'll say. Says, well, Mike, where are your accusers? I don't have any. Then neither do I condemn you. It's over. God requires your past. What does that mean? God wipes out what you thought you were so that you can be who you are. In my Jackie Gleason voice, all things are yours. How sweet it is. How sweet it is. All things are yours. Amen. And so it is.